Stay there first. What's up, everybody? We're a couple of seconds late here. Welcome to another episode of Police Off the Cuff After Hours. My name is Mark DeMeo. I'm your host. I'm very excited about our guest tonight. But just so you know, I got to explain a couple of things before I bring you on, Jimmy. Tonight I'm riding solo. Bill Cannon, my partner in crime and all things law enforcement. He's doing his show. I think it's a real crime episode. No, it's a true crime episode after at 9:00 tonight. And that's the thing. He's really doing a lot of work on these true crime and these real crime episodes, and they're gaining big numbers, and he's doing really great with it. And I'm so happy for him. He's overwhelmed though, so I'm gonna be holding the fort down with Police Off the Cuff After Hours. Probably going to be having different co-hosts, and if something clicks, if something works out, then I'll have a permanent co-host. But until then, we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna add some different things to it. I'm really excited about our guest tonight. This is me. This is what I love to do. I love to bring inspirational stories. Anything that involves law enforcement, anything that involves just, the state of the union, where we are right now in life. He's not only a great comedian, he's an author, and he is the host of Fox Across America, which airs 12 o'clock to 3 p.m. on Fox News Radio. He's also a frequent guest on The Red Eye, Greg Gumfeld, Ingram, so many, Waters World. It's an honor to have him on the show. Thank you for giving me the time. What's up, Jimmy Failla?
Yo, thank you for showing up. I mean, your buddy was like, I'm bigger than this. I don't need to hang out with this Fox dirtbag. Good to see you, Mark. I'm kidding. But yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is kind of a big deal. Thanks for the fancy intro. You read it just the way I wrote it. I'll send you the 50 later.
Talk about coming from humble beginnings. Like the fact that, we have a kid who started working for us here. He's an up-and-coming journalist. I was hoping that he can sit in on the show tonight. His name is Mike Cologne.
Oh, good.
And we call him the Prodigy. But he, this is a kid who's like, this would be his ideal, his dream job. And yet here you come out of nowhere. I mean, you grew up in Levittown, and not for nothing, Long Island. There's a lot of nice places in Long Island, and then there's Levittown.
Yo, that's pretty funny. Every Levittown event I ever went to growing up ended in a fist fight. That's the funny thing about Levittown, is there was always a keg and there was always a fight. Like you could go to a Holy Communion and it ended in a fist fight. Honestly, there was the St. Bernard's Church Carnival when I was a junior in high school, ended in a wild fist fight on the last night. That's Levittown. That's what we do. A lot of above ground pools. I don't mean to show off. I don't mean to pistol whip you with my prosperity over here, DeMeo. A lot of 12 foot by 10 foot above ground pools, and a lot of wiffle ball, a lot of cheap beer, a lot of fights. But sometimes you need to have a little fight in you to make it in this game.
Somehow you wound up in a Division High School, which sounds to me like a reform school.
Division Avenue High School. It does. It sounds remedial. Like we're sending him to Division. It hasn't been working out with his scores. We're going to send him to Division. I like that. That's actually pretty funny. And it's on par if you know the intellect of myself and the people I graduated with.
Well, obviously, I'm one of these kids too, man. I went to, I guess you could say it was some type of, I went to a military school from like 3rd to 8th grade.
Okay.
Sleepaway, because I talked too much in class. I was a disruptive.
You can get 5 years of military school for talking too much in class. Who is this elementary school prosecutor? That seems like an overzealous sentencing guideline. No. Well, you know what? In hindsight, it actually it made me shut up. They beat you. It was a different era. I mean, I had that. Listen, I went to, people talk about how if you went to Catholic schools, you'd get like slapped in the hand with a ruler. Like I went to public school in the 90s. I had teachers smack me in the head straight up, like things you'd get fired for now. I had a 9th grade teacher that not only would smack us in the head, but would let us fight in the classroom. It was actually like straight up fight in my 9th grade English teacher. And he'd let it go on. He'd move the desk and be like, no, you guys got to go at it. Like looking back, there was clearly something wrong with the guy, but at the time, what did I care? I was 33-2. I was ranked.
Yeah,
you wasn't thinking about it. I was just trying to find Don King and make a few bucks
with those big hands of yours.
Hey, girl.
So obviously, after Division High School, you wound up at Nassau Community College.
Mm.
The reason why I'm going through this pattern right now with you is because I want people to understand that you got a job on Fox. So I just wanted to see your beginnings and how this evolved, because it's an amazing story. You went to Nassau Community. I went to Queensborough Community College, so we're the same.
Yeah, yeah. There is it's a weird lineage, man. Like I went to Nassau, didn't even apply myself, to be clear. Like I try to share the story on the radio once in a while because I think people do need to know. Like life has a way of lying to you. Life has a way of convincing you like the things you want to do aren't worth going for, or the odds are too big. Like I'm a guy who was not only going to Nassau Community, but I wasn't like applying myself. I once cut bowling class. Like, do you know how big of a dirtbag you have to be, Mark DeMeo, that you can't show up for 30 minutes and bowl a couple of frames of bowling? So absolutely.
Listen, if you look at my transcript, I have Hebrew 1 and Hebrew 2 as my language. Now, I was standing in line for Spanish, so because I'm Spanish, I speak Spanish. That's an easy grade for me. And some rabbi came up to me in the line. Back then, when you went to register for your classes, you used to have to stand in line. And you didn't do it online. You stood in line. And this rabbi came up to me, goes, "Hey, why don't you take Hebrew?" I said, "I'm sorry, Rabbi, I'm not Jewish." He goes, "You don't have to be Jewish." I said, "How often do I have to come?" He goes, "You come once a week." So I called my friend Paul over Bustle, and I said, "Hey, we should take Hebrew. We only got to go once a week." So I got out of Hebrew 1, and then I actually have, if you look at my transcript, Hebrew 2.
Get at it.
Yeah. And I only went once that semester, the second semester. I went for the food because he used to lay out a nice spread.
You get a latke or something fun like that?
Yeah. It was a Jewish food, and it was a nice spread. And we used to come in all stoned out from the parking lot just to go eat that food.
I wouldn't know anything about that at Nassau Community College. Obviously, we were the picture of sobriety when I was showing up to intro to Xbox.
I learned one word. It's called machberet. It means notebook.
Oh, that's funny.
Because every time I'd show up to class, it'd be like, "Hey, Mayo, where's your machberet?" I said, "Rabbi, I think I forgot in the car." I was just getting out of the cold because we used to hang out outside and just party all day in front of Queensborough Community College. That's what we did.
Hilarious, man. That's funny. Yeah, but I do say this to people a lot. Like, obviously I went to Division, I went to Nassau, then I was doing stand-up, and I was driving a cab, man. I drove a taxi for a long time in New York City, 5 to 5, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then, I was doing stand-up and stuff at night before like somebody at Fox actually saw me and brought me in to start doing TV and stuff. But again, that is not supposed to be the traditional lineage of someone who's hosting, like a nationally syndicated talk show for millions of people. But I think that's the cool thing about the show is like when I'm on the air, like I am more of a listener than I am a host, and that I've spent so much time being the guy in the car listening to the show that I kind of feel like I have inside information. Like I speak the language of the people. You know what I'm saying?
Like when I look at your stand-up, though, I don't see a lot of political stuff, and yet somehow you have this other side of your brain that is real. You're on top. You have to be on top of every single event.
Yo, there's so much reading. There's so much to know. Like that part is exhausting. The show is easy to do. You're on for 3 hours a day. It's your job to talk about it and be entertaining. And, we run a lot of sketches and weird song parodies and stuff. But it's the actual, like you said, it's boning up on all that information that you need to retain in order to talk about this stuff. That's definitely a different muscle. But where stand-up really helps talk radio is, in stand-up, you have your act, and every joke is basically a point. It's some type of commentary on some experience that you've had. Yeah. And that's how you kind of inform talk radio. You figure out what your point is that you're going to try to make off the top of the show. And then you can just deploy all of the communication know-how you acquired doing open mics on the Lower East Side, or even doing good rooms and doing TV sets. But the point is, it all kind of complements each other in a weird way. And what I would think gives us an advantage as stand-ups over traditional talk hosts is we know when we're trying out material whether or not it's going to work, not even from saying it to the crowd, but just being in front of them and hearing the thoughts starting to come out of our fat faces. Like I can tell if a new joke is going to work before they've even heard it. I can just tell in the build up to dropping it. I'm like, oh God, this isn't right, or this isn't going to work. And I think that gives you an unfair advantage in talk, because you kind of have a better ear for what the listener and how they're going to react to the things you say. And I actually think it's actually like an advantage. The disadvantage is that you just got to remind yourself that it's not all stand up. So if, 85 people die in a suicide bombing, you can't be like, my wife's fat. How is she? You can't do stuff like that.
Isn't it funny that, we go into stand up comedy or acting or any one of these arts because we don't want to hold down a traditional job. And then you finally make it. And you're working Monday through Friday, 12 to 3. You got to write before the show. It's basically a 10-hour day. So you're working Monday through Friday. You worked your way right into a regular corporate job.
In a weird way, it's true, because what you notice, man, is like until you're doing, like, say you're doing stand-up for a living, say you're writing for a TV show, whatever the case may be. Okay. Until someone is paying you to do it full time, it never dawned on you that you were only doing it when you felt like it. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're writing for stand-up, with you, me, anybody else, we're really only writing when we're in the mood to write, when we're feeling like it, where we're in that place. But once it does become your job, you have to figure out how to replicate like that level of production, whether you feel like it or not, because you're writing every day. Someone once told me a good example of this is like, picture it as a stripper. Okay. A stripper's job is to be sexy, but imagine somewhere right now at 7:00 on a Monday, there's a stripper driving to a strip club with a stomach ache and gas. You know what I mean? But she can't get on stage and be stomach ache and gas girl. She has to get on stage and be this sexy bombshell. So you've got to figure out how to reproduce like that energy. I think that's the difference between being a pro and just being somebody who's pretty good at it,
There's a lot of guys who are funny backstage,
Yes. Yeah, but
but you have to save it for the stage. And it doesn't matter how funny I feel during the day. I don't even want to waste it.
Yeah.
I want to save it for, the 45 minutes I have to do later. You know what I'm saying? Save that energy, save that. And you're hoping that it all kind of sort of comes together, but you have to focus on it. You can't just waste it, throughout the day,
Yeah, it's a good point. Save it for the game.
You got to harness it. Harness it. And I would imagine sitting there and like before you go on I don't know when you do your writing for the show before.
Yeah.
But it's got to be a huge pain in the ass every day, man.
Oh, it's fun.
Every day.
It's fun.
Every Monday through Friday, 3 hours.
You know what,
That's
man?
a lot of work, man.
Yeah, you don't feel it though. You got to think of what I am. I mean, as a guy who was driving a cab, I was picking up my cab at 4 a.m. and driving until 5 p.m. and then going to a club and doing stand up. Like to me, it's not real work. Like to me,
but here's the thing, though. You're talking a lot about political stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those things change. In this day and age, they change hourly, but daily. And then the whole thing, you could very easily sound very stupid the next day for what you said yesterday because something else came up. So it's you have to kind of sort of like, I don't know how it,
the trick is like, you don't have to deal in absolutes. You don't I don't do the kind of show where I go like, I know everything. And, what I say is flawless. Like, I'm pretty upfront about what the show is. I'm like, hey, man, it's drive a cab. I'm a little bit of a mess, but I care about the country and I want everybody to weigh in. You don't need to agree with me. The whole premise of my show is I open every show by saying you could be a Republican, you could be a Democrat, just don't be a dick. That's the whole show.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, because it invites like a different atmosphere to talk radio. Most guys doing talk radio, I think what you're conjuring up in your head is the guys that get on the radio and just scream for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. Like, you're the other side. They're destroying the country. I'm not doing that, man.
But you still have to sit there and talk about your opinion on certain things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And regardless of, how you're humble about it, your opinion not only has value, but it has to be pretty good because Fox gave you a show. You have to have some sense of the pulse of at least your demographics.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
a stronghold on that.
No, we do. You do have a good handle on it. But again, it's like it's a lifestyle, man. Like you when you're doing one of these shows, okay, you're producing the show every morning at the same time. You're hosting the show at the same time. Then I go on to give an example. Our show is on about 82 stations around the country. And I appear on just about every one of them, you know, about once a week, once every 2 weeks. I'll do like a 5-minute call into those other stations just so their morning show, you know, and their morning show audience has a connection with what's coming up next, like promo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I'll have to go, Fox will put me on TV like 4 or 5 times a week to promote it on like Fox shows like Gutfeld or, you know, Outnumbered or one of the morning shows like Fox and Friends. And because this is your lifestyle, like you're doing it constantly, you're always talking to other people that are doing it constantly. It's kind of like baseball stats. You just absorb it from trading baseball cards all day. And it's easier to grasp than you think. This is the real trick. This is an advantage and a superpower you have. As a funny person with expert communication skills, you're head and shoulders above everybody else because most people are just absorbing information and giving it back to the audience in like a factual, almost like professorial manner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our ability to like kind of be entertaining and engaging is something that can't really be taught. So the memorization, I promise, it's not that hard. Like people do it. Anyone, you can train an ape to memorize what state a senator's from, or, you know, what bill was signed by this congressman. The real magic trick is not knowing the information. It's actually being somebody that they want to spend 3 hours a day around. And I just want to go really quick to this point, though, because it kind of overlaps with what you do as a cop. I always say that radio is like a buddy cop movie. You know, you get in the car, you hear a new voice coming out of the speaker, and you've got to decide if you can ride along with this guy and fight crime every day. So the real hook to being like a good radio host is to just be a good partner. Like if people get in the car and they want to be around your energy, it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, too, you know, the fact that you have it's 5 days a week, you have a chance to recoup the following day. So if you said something crazy the day before and it turned out to not be true or whatever, then you could just, you know what? It's another day. It's not like you have to wait a whole week you're
a closer. You're not a starter. You're a closer.
Yeah. And it kind of sort of builds up. So it becomes soap opera-ish, following these stories along. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you have a lot of opinions on that kind of stuff, and I want to tackle them as well. But I will also want to give a shout out to some of the people that Patience is a Virtue. She's on with us right now, Peter Pranzo, and Joe Murray is in the house. And Joe Murray is he's a retired cop. He's a fantastic lawyer, but he's getting over COVID right now. For him to be back in, he's also a sponsor of the show, and we'll be getting to that later. Margaret Hearn, Jen Lowe. I just want to give a shout out. Boxing MMA 365. Thank you guys for tuning in. Lady Honey Rose McKay, Factual Breakdown. These are all the people that are tuning in tonight. And we got a nice family here. Charleston, Amy, my cousin Dwayne Vasquez, Jen Lowe. So, back to where we were, man. You know, you're driving a cab in New York City. You're a stand-up comic. And you write this book. Now, just the title of the book is it's called Follow That Car. Cabbie's Guide to Overcoming Fears, Achieving Dreams, and Finding a Public Restroom in New York City. Just the title of that book is so funny.
Yo, man, that book was a lot more fun to write than it was to live, you know, driving every day. But no, thank you for that. The guy who actually published that book is a funny story, man. Charles Osgood, he hosted a show called CBS Sunday Morning for 30 years.
I remember Charles Osgood. Yeah, of course.
He had a radio thing called the Osgood File. I met him driving a cab, and he was a super guy. Him and his son, Ken, are phenomenal people. And they kind of wanted to help me out, but they didn't really do anything with stand-up. So they were like, hey, you know, we can publish a book. But what was funny is like when I turned in the manuscript, because he had his own like publishing company, he was like, yeah, like the things you do, I don't want anywhere near the things I do. So we're going to put it on this level, on this label instead of like the regular label, which I understood because the stuff we're talking about in the cab is, you know, pretty out there, man. But it was like a cool experience. The book is just like a collection of the weirdest stuff and the best advice I got when I was driving a cab. And yeah, if you like reading at a third grade level, oh my God, you're going to love this book so much.
You know, listen, we know you come from humble beginnings, but there's a lot of things you could have done other than driving a cab. What was it that drew you to driving a cab?
Yo, my 7th grade English teacher, Mr. Schwab, told me that the best summer of his life was spent driving a taxi. He's like, you meet everybody in the world. You're going to absorb all kinds of information and life experience because you pick up like 40 people a day in New York City that are from every walk of life imaginable, and a lot of walk of lives, obviously, that you couldn't imagine. Like I've had a woman get in with sock puppets on each hand, and the puppets yelled at me all the way to Brooklyn, stuff like that. I had a guy get in with a beer drinking goat, Clay Henry, the beer drinking goat. He was trying to get his goat on Letterman for stupid pet tricks. Like I dropped him off at Ed Sullivan. It wasn't like he had an appointment to audition. He literally took a cab up to the Ed Sullivan Theater, got out with a couple of long necks, and was like legit banging on the front door. I'm like, this is amazing. But that's, New York. But that English teacher told me I had to drive a cab because I'd learned so much. And I'd always held it in the back of my head that I would. And when my wife got pregnant, I was doing stand-up. I was doing like a minimal amount of colleges, but I knew I needed to do something to kind of supplement that income, but still allow me to go out and be a comic. So I started driving a cab part-time, like, hey, this was this thing I wanted to do. And then my wife got laid off while she was pregnant. And then I had to drive a cab. And then it became like, it was my job, for a long time, man. And I loved it. It was a great gig. The real holdup is that if you're trying to do more than that, it's sometimes hard to find the energy at the end of like a 13-hour day of driving,
Yeah, I kind of sort of felt the same way when I was a cop. Like I was, for example, I was a detective in a squad investigating robberies and burglaries. And I'd be looking at the clock right now. We had somebody we're talking to, and at some point I tell my partner, I said, listen, bro, I got to get out of here, man. I got a spot. Can you take over after here? And they all, that's the beauty of that type of camaraderie and that type of arrangement. We all looked out for each other. He needed something, I was always there for him. And if I told him I got a spot, most of the time it worked out. I never actually missed a spot because of police work. I think, wow. It's almost amazing. Like, well, at least a paid spot.
Yeah, I get it.
I somehow I always finagled it. I always worked it out. But I could see how driving a cab is obviously you're in the city already. You could park that thing anywhere. But from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., you're going to be kind of sort of drained.
Yeah, you're a little beat up. I mean, it gives you plenty of time to write during the day because you're just kind of whizzing around taking notes on conversations you had. But there is like weird overlap. I'll give you a funny story. When the Mets had a center fielder named Carlos Beltran, who was a Yankee.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, he almost managed the team this year, but that whole Astros sign stealing thing cost him the gig. Yeah. But Carlos Beltran, when he turned 30, the Mets threw a surprise party for him. And somehow through some wild confluence of events, I used to talk about a lot of sports in my act. And a guy had seen me at Comics. Do you remember Comics downtown?
Yeah.
The Mets hired me to perform at Carlos Beltran's 30th surprise party. But they hired me like the day before. Now, understand, it was a Sunday. I had already prepaid for a cab. I needed the money. So I drove my cab that day. And I showed up to a restaurant. It was called Cezanne. It was down on Reed Street, down by, in Battery Park down there. And I did the gig. And I did talk about driving a cab in my act. And I'll never forget when it was over, Carlos Delgado was like, what are you doing after this? I'm like, no, I'm driving a cab. He's like, oh, you're so funny. Like, what are you really doing? I'm like, oh, no, that's my cab. It's like right outside. Like, if you guys need a ride home. Like, and they thought I was like kidding. But yeah, like I so feel you in terms of the double life cab driver or the double life comic anyway, and the things that you have to do. Oh my gosh, man. I've done so many of those. I actually drove my cab for Taxi Cab Confessions. And whatchamacallit, I drove a season that they filmed in New York, but because I drove during the day, I really didn't get a lot of confessions that were usable on camera. And what that means is when the people are done spilling their guts about whatever their weird fetish is, necrophilia or something crazy, a producer has to get out and get them to sign a release saying like, hey, we're going to put this on HBO. And 9 times out of 10, you don't get a signature. You get a punch in the throat, and there's like a wrestling match on 9th Avenue. And that was my experience for driving for Taxi Cab Confessions. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I remember that show. That was a good show.
It would get there. But what's funny about it, man, is when you're driving the cab, you have an earpiece in, and they're actually following you in a car, asking you follow-up questions about the conversation because they can hear what's going on in your car. It's all mic'd up unbeknownst to the passenger. So the first woman I picked up, she was 77 years old, Mark, and she was going to a reunion. She was an elderly Jewish woman who went to summer camp as a teenager. She was going to a reunion of her summer camp. These women had gotten together every summer as often as they could for the better part of like 65 years. They were like, we'll always remain friends, and did. Well, anyway, I'm driving her to Grand Central so she can get on the Metro North and go upstate to wherever this reunion was. And I've got a producer in my ear going, and what do you girls do after a couple glasses of wine? Like, no, this woman's like 1,000. I mean, maybe she is, but it's like, I really don't feel like doing this. It was like so awkward, man.
Yeah, those guys want to go home, man. They want to get a couple of confessions and go home.
That's what it is. They're really crowbarred in there. She's like, ask her if she's attracted to any of the other women. I'm like, dude, the woman next to her is in an urn. She was cremated 3 years ago. I don't know.
At the end of the day, it's a job, man. You want to go home. Get this bitch to say something good.
It's so funny, man.
Oh, yeah, man. It's great. I mean, also, there's the jobs are so similar in that you really get a chance to meet New Yorkers, and also everybody from all over the world, as a cop and as a cab driver.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of synonymous in that way. Like, they really are joined at the hip. The same person that's going to come up to me and make a complaint just jumped out of your cab.
That's
you know
so
what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's totally true. Go ahead.
No, so after you put together the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did this was Snakes in the Cab something that you used to promote the book?
Yes.
Yeah, that was brilliant, by the way.
Thank you, man. That was like
Who came up with that?
Me, but it really popped. It was a crazy idea. So what happened is, like, when our book was coming out.
Wait, I'm going to show the video before you even start.
Oh, get out of town.
Watch this. Watch this. Hold on 1 second. I hope I get this right.
I'm amazed that like YouTube still shows it. It got taken down a bunch because a bunch of people showed it.
Here we go.
Oh no. You want to full screen it?
I didn't. You should have told me it didn't.
Oh, there you go.
Wait.
Yeah, very fancy.
Wait.
Look at the tech skills on Mark.
You should have told me. Hey everybody, this is Jimmy Failla, author of Follow That Car. And I'm out here in my cab today picking up passengers with a good friend of mine riding shotgun.
Hey, 30th and 8th, please.
You got it.
Oh my god!
Well, yo, get the fuck! What the fuck is this doing? Pet snake. Sorry
Dude,
about that.
get this
Sunshine.
fucking thing away from me!
We got one right here. We got one right here. Oh. Whoa.
What the?
Yeah, I thought he was gonna throw his coffee in my face.
What the fuck? Oh my god!
Get me out this fucking car right now.
Oh my god.
What cab is this?
I'm pulling.
Fuck you! There's a cat. There's a snake in the fucking car.
It's a pet snake. It's a friendly snake.
When I get out of this cab, I'm gonna kick your.
Oh boy, proud moment for the show right there.
Wait, I gotta. Oh shit! Did it end? All right, good. Wait, no, I gotta end it. Hold on 1 second. All right. That was great, man. That was so. Because here's the thing, reading your bio, I realized those people didn't know that there was going to be obviously some of them knew, but because we know how to film these things, but most of them didn't know there was going to be a snake in the cab, right?
No, what you did is like I had shot a video series once before about like interviewing people on Valentine's Day, interviewing people about relationships. So some of them were like random street people. If you saw them on the outside, that just saw the snake from the outside, freaked out and ran away. Others were like homies, friends who thought they were showing up for some interview series about couples Valentine's Day. And then we just like let the snake go and obviously got crazy reaction shots. But it was like when it happened, it was like so psychotic. Like the Post put it on like the cover. It was madness. And then like, I'm not kidding. You know, the way the news cycle like obsesses over a story for like 24 hours and never talks about it again. Like, I was on TV in 24 hours 100 times. And I was never on again, though. Within like 30 hours of that thing hitting, never again. But it was like, that was the whole point, is like, we'll film this crazy prank. It'll promote the book. I'll get a chance to be on TV and like someone will like give me a job. But like, that's so not how it went. Like, we got all the exposure. I got to go on like TMZ Live a few times. That was really, really cool to me. Excuse me. But in terms of like anyone taking you seriously, they thought you were like psychotic. So like, go ahead.
No, at the time, we're all doing these different things to try to, that was in the beginning of kind of trying to embellish more than just doing stand-up.
Yes, absolutely.
It was the advent of having, back then they call them web series. So everybody was trying to get like a web series. That's this thing that we're doing right now is, comes from a web series originally.
That's rad.
Yeah, called Police Off the Cuff. But so yeah, you went viral. So that in itself right there, I mean, you nailed it.
Oh, thanks, man. It was so fun to shoot. We actually got, after that, a pilot to shoot a TV show with a production company in LA. You know who was a part of it? Remember Chris Laker?
Yeah, okay. With the long hair.
I grabbed a bunch of comics from around the city, and it was called Bad Taxi, and it was just going to be a show about taxi pranks. Pilot. We just shot a pilot and never got picked up because of like big insurance liabilities. Like, as you'd imagine, like something like a snake in a cab. Nobody wants to underwrite that kind of show. But we did a prank with Laker. It was called Junk in the Trunk. And we had put him in the trunk in a pair of like tighty whities, duct taped with his hands behind his back. And I was picking up random people on the street and just driving along, turning up the radio to like drown out the sound of him screaming. And the whole thing was to see like how long it could go on before people were like, hey, man, I don't know what's going on in this cab. So whenever people would finally freak out and call it out, like there's somebody in the trunk, I would park the car, unbeknownst to them, pop the trunk, and then Laker would just run for it down the street. And I would run after him like it was some type of violent situation, and we'd get reactions. It was a good prank. It was actually pretty funny.
It was a great prank, but that's never going to be on TV.
No, they wouldn't let you do it. You know, talking about never be on TV. My son Lincoln at the time was like a year old, and we were doing this phone prank where I was picking people up in my cab, and I had a baby in the passenger seat, in a child seat, just he's driving safely. But I would hold up a broken iPhone and say to the passenger, hey, man, I'm sorry to do this to you, but my phone is smashed. I got the baby. Do you mind if I take your phone and just make a 2-second phone call? And, everyone would see the baby and feel bad and give you the phone. And then the minute I'd pick up their phone, I would make a really aggressive ransom phone call, like it wasn't my baby. Listen, you ever want to see this kid again? And it was my kid. But the people in the back would freak out. One woman, I have footage of this. One woman physically grabbed the baby and tried to run out of the car with him. And I'm like, it's a prank. It's my son. It's okay. It's my son. It was crazy. It was a good prank, but yeah, they thought
some of these pranks go too far, man.
Yeah, I know. They thought we were
Talent used to have he was on the radio, 98.7 Kiss.
Yeah,
so great. I went in there and we did a bunch of pranks. And one of them, I played a landlord, and I was evicting people from their apartments. Some of these people have been there for, 30 years, 50 years. And I was calling up saying, I just bought the building and, you got to move out. I'm giving you 38. I gave some obscure number. You got 33 hours to move out. Otherwise, yeah, it was just like, And then we had, it didn't work out good. Let's put it that way.
I'm coming down to the studio.
Yeah, some of them are good, and some of them are, listen, I got to do just break for a little commercial here.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to. Joe Murray was on with us right now tonight, and I'm so happy that he's getting better. He's strong enough to tune into the show tonight. He's our legal counsel here on Police Off the Cuff. He's a great attorney. He's a former New York City police officer. God forbid you ever get into trouble. Trust me when I tell you, this guy's a gentleman. He will be in your corner 100%. So put this number in your pocket. Copy this. Do whatever you need to do. jmurray-law.com. His cell phone number is that I get to see is the cell phone number, right? 718-514-3855. Trust me, I keep that. I call up on the regular just to make sure that we're still connected. God forbid something happens. And also, here we go. If you're looking for some supplements, be sure to check out the products from firstdonutrition.com at First Responders. There are certain expectations in the performance of your job. We train hard and drill often to be able to perform at our best when duty calls. So these are one of our sponsors as well. Check them out, and you'll get a discount over there if you put in Police Off the Cuff. FirstDoNutrition.com. Use the code Off the Cuff to get a 10% discount, and they'll hook you up with all your steroids. You will get nice and huge, and you'll be in the game, man. Strong enough to compete. That's what all I want to do. I just want to be strong enough to compete. So, how much stand-up are you doing now?
When I go on the road with the radio show, I can do like events and markets and stuff like that. I'm getting ready, like hopefully by the spring, to shoot like another hour special. Like I have a special on Amazon that if anybody watches, I'll get a 10-cent royalty. So take off that apron, Jenny Failla. We're going out tonight, girl.
Yeah, but how are you working on the new hour? I mean, how many times a week are you getting up?
Realistically, like if I want to get up, I have room to get up like 3 times, but I don't do that. I just write all day. I write like crazy. And then I'm on the radio live 3 hours a day. So like when it comes to things that I'm, what I want to work out and stuff, I really have the radio as like a better forum to work stuff. But what I'm ultimately going to do, like if I make a commitment to Fox, like, hey, we want to shoot a stand-up special and put it out on Fox News next year, or, put it out on Fox Nation, then I actually have to get up like 5 nights a week, So it's coming. I mean, that's where I'm at.
What you're saying is that you guys do like a small tour where you guys speak and stuff like that. And you might get up and do some stand-up. Isn't there another guy there that's a stand-up as well?
Not a stand-up comic per se.
Well, Tom Shalhoub is great. I started with Tom.
Yeah, he's a really super cool guy. He'll open for Gutfeld like on the road. So yeah, he'd be an example of somebody like if Greg goes on the road and Greg does like a really funny Q&A about him and his show and does like this funny slide presentation where he makes fun of all the people they know at Fox News. And Tom is like the opening act for that. So yeah, there is absolutely like, a comedy hook to what the network's doing, in Gutfeld's slot is doing really well, like ratings wise. It's beaten Colbert, it's beaten the Tonight Show. It's doing pretty good. But in terms of a straight stand-up, like they've never produced a stand-up special on the channel itself. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be my goal, is to like get a special that could air on like a Saturday night that they could promote. Because I think coming off of Fox, like stand-up actually looks better because there's an expectation, that people are selling on the left that we must be a bunch of like right-wing psychos, when the truth is like, we're actually the cool side. Like I've done TV in every building in the city, like CNN, MSNBC and stuff like that. The people that work with at Fox are actually like really cool. Because it's weird, but conservatives used to be known as being like a little bit uptight, concerned about like rap lyrics and stuff like that, and now it's the other way. Conservatives are like, say whatever you want. We're protecting free speech. And liberals are getting everybody canceled, protesting jokes, chasing people out of restaurants. It's weird. Like the roles kind of reversed. But I don't think like as a comic, I don't think you need to embrace either or. I think as a comic, you should just be funny, That's what I think.
No, listen, you gotta. I was thinking about that guy Tatum. I think he's a comic too, but I don't know if he's a Fox regular. He's probably been on before. Black guy, African American guy, Tatum.
Tyrus.
Yeah,
Tyrus is funny. He
No,
has,
not Ty. Well, yeah, not Tyrus is funny too, but that's not the guy I'm talking about. There's another guy. Yeah, he's a conservative African American guy, but he's a stand-up. It's an interesting thing. It's so funny to like, like for example, like we started doing comedy. You probably came a little bit after me, but I started with Tom Shalhoub.
Okay.
And I remember Tom Shalhoub from doing open mics at the Gotham. They used to do it on Tuesday and Wednesday. It was $5. Jody Wasserman was the keeper of the gate. She was she used to run a tight ship. Damn it.
She did, right.
So many comics that I know, Karen Bergreen, so many comics that I know. That's we all used to go there together. That's how by the way. Everybody wants to jump like ahead. Like anybody who I know who wants to start comedy right now, they're always like, yeah, I really don't want to do the open mics. I'm like, no, that's where you meet everybody. That's where you can gauge how how well you're doing at the time in your career by who you started with.
Yeah.
But anyway,
100%.
Tom Shalhoub wound up on Fox, and Dean Obidala, who was another guy who I started with, he's on CNN.
I think he does like MSNBC. I think you.
Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe it's MSNBC, but it's just so funny how out of stand-up these careers happen. Outside of comedy, really.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, we had a guy, the late great Alan Colmes, who was he used to play the comic strip. He was like a happening comic, and then he hosted Hannity and Colmes on Fox News and had his own radio show for a long time. And he was a guy who started at the strip with Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. And I remember when Colmes was alive, it's a funny story. Lucian, the guy Lucian Holt, who booked the comic live here in New York, he had been like diagnosed with something, and it was going to end sooner rather than later. So they threw him a roast at the comic strip where they just absolutely hammered the guy. And Alan Colmes at the time had sent a video tribute. Like, Lucian, it's Alan Colmes, couldn't be there tonight, wanted to send you the best. And his video played, and then Seinfeld showed up in person. And he was like, well, Colmes couldn't make it tonight. But but I could. And I never bagged on Colmes. But yeah, it's funny. These are all guys who had a comedy background. And, because the thing is, Mark, like, comics are better at communicating than pretty much everybody, because our whole lives, live and die or hinge anyway on whether or not people comprehend what we're trying to tell them, so our communication skills, I think, are better than anybody's, but it's fascinating, man. So
tell me about more about the writing that's involved in this thing that you have to do every day, because I'm fascinated by it. How many do you have a team there? Is it 3 people, 2 people?
Yeah, you have a producer, you have an audio engineer in studio that's giving you like clips of, at the beginning of the day, you figure out what stories you're going to talk about, and then you get all the supporting audio.
Yeah, I don't have any of those.
Oh, it's funny.
You see, that's why I stumbled for the next question.
Oh, it's totally fun. But as things happen live on a show like this, you can take it live on TV. You can be playing the TV live. You can be pulling from some type of newscast or Capitol Hill hearing like today with Secretary of State Blinken, or, if there's some type of police.
What happened with that, by the way?
He testified on the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and basically,
but he's doing it in front of Congress.
Yes, and
did the Republicans get a chance to get at him yet?
They gave him a hard time. Yeah, they did. They gave him a really hard time, and he, was basically just saying, it was the right decision to leave, which no one is arguing. It's not the fact that we left; it's how we left. They took the troops out ahead of the civilians in a lot of those provinces, which is what created the vacuum of, people stampeding to the airport and trying to climb onto the side of planes as they were taking off. It created a desperate situation. But all I was going to say is my show, it's not a lot of writing. It's just a lot of reading. Once you've read everything imaginable known to man and you kind of have formed an opinion in your head, it's weird, but you just turn the show on. It goes live at 12 o'clock and you just start talking, man. But
you got to read from both sides, though.
Yeah, of course. You got to you got to know everyone's point of view. But again, like, my job isn't to tell them how to vote or to steer an election. My job is to be a talk show host, which means these guys say this, these guys say that. This is my opinion. What's yours? And it's not, but that's just the style of show. Believe me, there are plenty of people that are writing really data heavy monologues and just browbeating listeners into thinking their way. I think we have a better chance of getting people to think our way if we're cool, as opposed to if you just hammer them with the data, So I don't know. I put more effort into making the show a good hang than I do of making it like, the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. That's what I like this show to be as well. I like to kind of, I don't know, motivate, bring on people that inspire, people that, have done heroic things on their jobs, and then afterwards as well. Yep. So we've had a lot of law enforcement. Then we expanded from law enforcement into anything that has anything to do with law enforcement or just, the betterment of man for that matter. You know what I'm saying? That's where we're at right now. We've had so many great guests. I just want to give it up to Stace on the case. We have not only do we have a Patreon that you can join, but we also have right now we have the memberships on YouTube, and a couple of them are it's Polish My Rack. I know that one, the Bucket, and then there's dipped in butter, but also heated dipped in butter. And that's how we keep the show going. And we expanded the platform. Bill is doing a couple different shows. I'm going to be holding it down on this show and bringing some other stuff as well. Our guest tonight, Jimmy Failla, is a great comedian, but he's also the host of Fox Across America, which can be heard 12 to 3, Monday through Friday on Fox America Radio. Is that what it is? Fox Radio?
Easiest way, you could just turn on the Fox News app and click listen, and you're good. It's on 82 stations, but you can listen to it on your phone on the app, or the website is foxacrossamerica.com. But doesn't matter. Whatever way you listen to it, man. It's just as long as you're there. Cool.
You got an in-ground pool now?
No, don't you dare.
No, not yet?
My wife wants one. My kid wants one. We'll see. It's the problem with
bro. Now you're holding on to the cash, man.
No,
you can take a chance. You're in. You're in.
Listen, I'm doing fine. But the problem is, if I get an in-ground pool, then I got to get in shape. You know what I'm saying?
You're never going to go in it.
I know. That's the thing. Like, I got everybody in the block hanging out in my backyard. Now I got to get in real shape. Like, it would probably be good for me to get an in-ground pool.
What do? You run?
I get a fair amount. I do a lot of pull-ups, push-ups, dips. That's essentially what I do in terms of lifting.
You look like you sweat a lot.
Well, you want to know something? I have a TV light on me right now, and my head is so shiny. I'm not sweating.
Are you a sweater?
No, not really. If I move that light, my head wouldn't be shiny. It's just I'm still sitting in my TV studio from something I did earlier, and that's why there's this ridiculous logo behind me and everything.
You're 100% Italian?
Half Italian, half Polish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But whatchamacallit? No, who knows, man? Maybe the pool's coming. I don't know.
Come on, treat them, man.
No, listen, they live fine. I take them on the road. Like my show, I did like a week in LA this summer, and I just took them and just let them hang out. Like I did the show for 3 hours a day, and they got to go see LA and swim.
It's so much easier too.
Yeah. Step on a syringe, all the fun stuff you do in LA.
It's crazy there now, huh?
Yo, it's just like it looks like Gotham City before Batman shows up, except Batman ain't coming, It's bad. And it sucks because LA and California in general is like such a nice state, but they really ran it into the ground. And I don't know if they just don't notice because there's palm trees everywhere and it's still pretty, despite the fact that, there's, a million people living on a sidewalk. Like, it's bad, man. And I hate it. Like, I want it to be better, just like I want New York to be better, but they'd have to really change. They have this recall tomorrow. I don't know that they're actually going to get rid of Newsom or the actual mindset of how they govern out there, because the way politics are now, most people want their side to win more than they want society to improve. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get you.
For a Republican to beat a Democrat, it's more important for a Democrat to beat a Republican than it is for America to collectively make progress. And that's a sad thing. Like, when you look back at the 20th anniversary of September 11th, we recognize that wasn't not a political issue. It was a humanitarian issue. People weren't running into the towers saying, "Who did you vote for?" You know, whereas when it comes to the coronavirus, which is kind of its own weird in its own way, like a September 11th, in that it affects everybody regardless of who they voted for. The virus has no idea who you voted for. And that being said, we're not treating it that way. We're very much treating the politics of this as the bigger issue than the actual, you know, the pandemic itself, the people who we need to help. And it sucks, man. I don't like seeing the world this way. That's why I feel like, honestly, Mark, like I feel a responsibility. Like when I go on the air every day and you know how many people Fox reaches and stuff like that, I genuinely, and this is probably me being new and still caring. I'm sure if I was old and fat and rich, I'd be a monster. But right now, while the show is new and I'm excited and I still care, like I feel an obligation to just kind of be cool and not make it worse by getting everyone upset for 3 hours a day. Because there's just like too much of that out there, man. People just need to chill out. That's all it is. Like if everybody in society could just chill out, get off social media for like 48 hours and not need to beat someone or win an argument, like we'd actually probably get somewhere.
You know, I do a lot of work on making sure I kind of sort of deprogram from that, including breathing techniques, ice baths, cold showers daily, meditation, all that, so I can center and control what I let get into me, control what I'm going to allow to make me angry. And you'd be surprised if you really focus on that. Not that much gets you angry.
Yeah.
You start realizing it doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
And then you go about another degree of separation. Is it affecting my family or my kids? No. So at that point, I'm going to let it go. I got to let it go. I'm not going to comment on anything. I'm not going to let myself get triggered or worked up. I consume it for what it is, and then I let it go.
Smart.
But I think that's something that people need to work on, because, you know, we're all looking for reasons to get derailed, to get upset about something. No, don't let these things control you unless they really have something to do with you. Let the people that it affects, let them go crazy. It's
Yeah.
Not that much stuff is getting in my way right now.
I mean, listen, that's the right attitude, because most people, it's funny, but if you think back to like the 4 years where Trump was president, the only thing that really changed in the country was the amount of power people gave politics over their lives. Like you make a good point. It's like, how many people do we know in New York that have like what would otherwise be great lives? Like they're rich, they're married to someone cool, they have a cool job, they live in a cool place, they can travel the world, but yet they were miserable because they just didn't like who the president was.
Exactly. And that's where I started formulating this the way I behave now is from that. I'm like, what are we doing right now? Why are we so angry?
Honestly, it's social media. Like social media makes everybody madder, because it's not that we can't coexist with people we disagree with. It's that we're now being asked to coexist with them 24 hours a day. They're always living in your phone. You used to have disagreements with people and not see them for a week or a month or a year. Now you disagree with somebody and you walk away and they're in your phone. You go on your vacation, they're in your phone. You celebrate a holiday, you're in your phone. And because we're rewarded for interacting with our phones, you get more likes, you get more engagement. The phone has incentivized conflict. Like people are better on the phone if they're in conflict in terms of their following, in terms of their likes. That's why everybody is just so angry. It's because one side of the country that doesn't agree with you is trying to get you angry at all times because it'll get them more likes. And then on your side of the country, you're trying to get them angry because it'll get you more likes. Maybe you don't even realize you're doing that, but over time, you realize the most extreme takes get rewarded with the most likes. So social media kind of incentivizes extremism. And when you're around extremism all day, you're just ready to kill somebody. That's why I say it on the radio, dude. I'm like, hey, I talk about politics for a living. I hope when you guys are done listening to the show, you don't listen to the next one. With all due respect to the next guy, you shouldn't be listening to this all day because it's just such a negative yield. That's why I do feel like this obligation to not just be a miserable prick all day.
But it actually takes work. You have to actually you have to separate yourself. You have to make an honest effort to not let it get to you. Yes. And that's the world we're living in right now. Rebecca Hicks says, it's not social media. It's the fake man who thinks he's in charge, but he's so delusional he doesn't know if he's from the USA or China.
Oh,
That's
no.
very funny. That's funny,
Funny.
Rebecca.
Is that a shot? It sounds like a shot at Biden.
Yeah.
Listen, Biden would make a really good Walmart greeter if you didn't mind being welcomed to Target. He's probably not going to call it Walmart, but yeah, he could do the gig. He could do the waving.
Yeah, man. It's a really scary time to be living for so many different reasons. We got the COVID. We have a president that it's hard to believe that he's calling the shots.
Mm-hmm.
Then you wonder who's where'd you go? You left? Oh, you left, Jimmy. You cut me out. Damn it. Anyway, he's back. Hold on.
Me, don't worry about it. That's funny.
No, we got 5 more minutes left.
Whatevs. I'm here. I'm hanging. This is great.
I just want to make sure that we get it all in. Let me just take a look over here. What is your opinion on defund the police? What a disaster that turned out to be, huh?
Oh my God. Seriously, that, there's
Minneapolis is the only place that's it's still pushing for it, by the way.
Well, and they also tried to hire more cops just because of what happened to the crime, to the crime rate. I always say this to people, like, America doesn't have a crime problem. It has a stupid problem. There are stupid people who there are stupid people who got elected and bought into these dopey narratives because, again, they were trendy on social media. It was trendy to say defund the police last spring when society was on fire and it looked like cities were going to collapse under the weight of those protests. And the idea that they were able to convince people that somehow the police are a bigger threat to the community than the criminals. Again, there's no bigger indictment of a country's stupidity than the fact that that was a popular movement in this country. Even if it was popular for an hour, I mean, we know it was popular for months, but even if it was popular for an hour, it's disqualifying. And what's so crazy about it, and this is the part that gets me so mad about the whole thing, is when you think of what's ensued in the aftermath, a good example of this would be St. Louis. They have a congresswoman named Cori Bush, who is a big defund the police advocate. If you remember, about a month ago, she was on the news on the steps of the Capitol because she had been outed for spending $100,000 herself on private security.
Yeah.
Of course, private security. People want to kill me, but the rest need to suck it up. Defund the police has to happen. Now, the insanity of this is Cori Bush, her actual district is St. Louis, where homicides are up 53% in the past year. In her district, not one of those homicides was committed by a cop. It was all criminal on criminal. In some instances, black on black. In some instances, black on white, white on black, anything in between. But the point is, if we're focusing on the police and we're saying things like defund the police, it's not to help communities, it's to help politicians. Those movements helped politicians. Some of them were able to fundraise off of it.
Yeah, but they backed up off of them as soon as they realized it wasn't working, but they're already caught on tape.
Of course. And
I want to show you something right now, and we'll close out on this. Wait till you see this. I'm dying to hear your opinion on this. Watch this.
Uh-oh.
Wait. I don't know how to get this to forget. Oh, there it goes. All right, you ready?
Yep.
To assist the officer. He gets out of his car, he rushes in, he straddles the suspect's legs to limit his ability to build the house. And I just want you to watch this. Watch how effectively this civilian is able to assist the officer because of his jiu-jitsu training. The hand control, the underhooks, everything, the body control, the knee on belly you're going to see. And most impressively, how this civilian is able to communicate with the suspect and the officer, even right here, while the suspect is going for the officer's gun. Listen to what he says. He's talking to the suspect, telling the suspect to release the officer's gun. Calmly, deliberately, they're able to pry his hand off. And I'm going to let this play out right now so you can see the beauty of the intervention, the beauty of the assistance, and then we're going to talk more afterwards.
Look off. Help! Hey! Piece of shit ass motherfucking shit. Stop fighting, brother. Stop fighting. Nope. Keep on. No, I ain't fucking dude you're looking for, man. They was happy, not me, motherfucker. Turn around, brother, please.
Now listen carefully to the things the civilian is saying to the officer regarding body weight, underhooks, and control.
Nope. Stay heavy. Stay heavy. Nope. I got you. Let me get the underhook.
Oh, that's great right there. When he does that,
Yeah.
oh my God. It's such a simple thing to do.
This student has never arrested a person in his life, yet he was able to pry that arm out with absolute alavanca and effectiveness.
Dude, you're looking for it, man.
You guys, this is my favorite part right here. The jiu-jitsu student is so calm, and the cognitive function of his prefrontal cortex is so well engaged that at this point, he realizes the suspect is in cuffs, so he tells the officer to get off the suspect. Give him a break, let him go. He's not going anywhere. We can sit up and we can get off the guy. Watch this.
He's not going anywhere. Get up. I'm going to, brother. Just relax. Go ahead. Take your time, man. You good.
Wow. You know, it's funny. As crazy as the video is.
Wait. What? I got to get it back.
Oh, no.
Here we go. Hold on a second. All right. There we go. Where are we? There. Are you still there?
Of course.
Yeah, that was, what was interesting about it was so many interesting things about it, but how easily he manipulated that guy's arm to make it available to be cuffed. The second cuff is always the toughest one to get on.
Yeah.
But that was interesting. And then obviously when he told him you can get off of him now, because a lot of people don't realize, okay, he's rear cuffed, let him catch his breath. He's not a threat anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you have that type of training, you don't realize about leverage, he was like, it's just an amazing video that somebody would go out of their way to help. And then, you'd see what type of training is actually the best, what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that part. I will confess, though, because I'm so used to watching prank videos and stuff, or like my kid showing me a TikTok. I didn't know that was going to end. Like I was really just hanging in there to make sure I wasn't being punked at the end or something like that. It was some type of Mark DeMeo prank show. Like the cop was going to get up and it was going to be somebody we knew. So I was watching it from a totally different vantage point. But yeah, listen, man, I think ultimately people have learned, if they didn't already know, that we need the cops more than pretty much any other profession in our society. And no community knows that better, than people who live in urban areas, because they're the ones who depend on the cops the most. And, if you interact with the cops on a daily basis, the vast majority of them are, great people. They're doing a job that, takes a lot of guts to do, and a job we can't really have a decent world without. So I'm glad, that was my takeaway from the video. I want to live in a world where people want to help the cops. I want to live in a world where people get the cops. I mean, thinking again, past the anniversary of September 11th, you could go into a bar after September 11th. So let's put us a week out, September 18th, 2001. You could go to any bar in New York, and if you were a cop or a fireman, you could get laid just because that was your gig. How many people do I know who weren't even cops or firemen that were to the bars because you could get laid left and right? Could you ever imagine a year where 19 years later, people would be actively trying to defund the police in the city? Like, how crazy? And I understand the cops in 20 years. We did. People did. And
shout outs to all the girls that put out after 9/11. Thank you so much.
We don't get enough credit. Those girls did a lot for this city.
No, they definitely they rebuilt the city, damn it.
Yes, and I'm sure there were guys too who put out. And you know what? Thanks for them too.
Well, that being said, anything you want to say in closing? Anything you got to promote? You got coming up?
Listen, if you want to check out my show, it's on noon to 3. You can get it on the Fox News app. Just click listen on the Fox News app. You can go to the website Fox Across America and download the show. But anything Mark DeMeo is a part of, it's an honor to be associated with. I have all your everything. I love everything about you. You know that. There's like a real history here. So it's cool to catch up with you, man. I was hoping you got fatter, but you didn't.
Well, you know what? You were a great guest, and I thought you were going to be a great guest, and you actually outdid what I thought you were going to do. So, I love you, and I'm rooting for you, and I'm in your corner. And folks, I got an album that's dropping tomorrow. Hold on one second. I want to show it to you right now. It's called The Bangers, right there, by Mark DeMeo. It's everywhere you want it to be. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. It's on iTunes, Instagram. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be like an infection. But pick it up, listen to it. Right. It's also on Pandora. Pick it up, listen to it. It was recorded during the pandemic, so you're doing it for 40 people in a room that fits 150. But that's what we were talking about early in the show.
Yeah.
As an entertainer, you got to bring it. You know what I'm saying? You got to be flexible. You got to be fluid, and that's our job, and that's what we're doing right now. So you keep doing you. And I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for taking the time out. I hope you had a good time.
It was great, man. This is amazing. Come on. This was fantastic.
Right. I'm looking at the comments, and everybody loved you.
Oh, you guys. Come on, man. Check out my show. I need the ratings. Come on, everybody. But no.
It's Fox across America on Fox News Radio, 12 to 3 p.m. every single day, Monday through Friday, like he has a real job again, folks. He worked his way into a real job again.
I blew it. I had it so good. You're right. I was just hanging out watching dirty movies in a La Quinta for 20 hours a day on the road.
You couldn't help yourself.
Oh, man. I had it so good. They pulled me back in. You're right. I'm going to quit right after this. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Thank you so much. God bless all of you. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love you. Bye.
Bye, guys. See you, brother.
Later, brother.
Later.